Hello, and welcome to Florida Gators Live 28 here at the Voice of College Football Networks. I'd like to start off this Sunday by wishing everyone a happy Mother's Day. Hope you went out dinner, got your mother a present. I went out to lunch with mine and my grandparents. It was a pretty nice day. I also like to start off this show by actually, know what? Probably shouldn't get into that discussion. I'll start off by saying Tyler Nutuno will not be here for this show. He is on vacation, so he's having a good time. Doesn't have to listen to me or anyone in the chat yap for the next hour to 2 hours of this show. But we're still going to have a good time. We do have a guest. We have Tucker Harlan from the Voice College Football at Tennessee. He's going to talk about Tennessee strengths, the potential matchup the occurring matchup between Florida and Tennessee later in the year in November. He has a bunch of cool stories, been to a lot of Florida-Tennessee games, so it's going to be fun to talk to him. But I think we should start this show off by talking about my personal top 10 players heading in to the 2025 season. I will have Natuno come over here, or next week he will do his top 10 players. But this week it's about mine. Now, this is a little bit of a combination of what have you proven and what do I think you will do. So there's not going to be many true freshmen, if at all. I do have one, actually, who starts the list. True freshmen. It's mostly seniors and juniors and sophomores. But I think let's start off the list, number 10, with Dallas Wilson. It's hard to put a true freshman on this list here because there's so many good players. But you look at what Dallas Wilson did in our spring game, where he went for 10 catches, over 200 yards, was that big-time 5 or 4-star receiver, depending on who you ask, coming out of high school, that we were able to flip. I mean, we got him to release from his letter of intent from Oregon. So we got him to flip from Oregon. It was really the big news of the recruiting cycle. And he comes here. It's all about his work ethic, his size, speed, flexibility out there on the field. I think he's someone that could really come here year one and be that top target for DJ Lagway and company here at UF. I'll also like to say some honorable mentions, players that just missed out on the list. Really, the rest of the O-line, Bryce Levette, Damian George, and Jaya Harris. I believe we have one of the best O-lines in the country. And these are 3 players I could have put on the list. I just don't know what their overall upside is, which I think these 10 players I have do have a higher upside, so I will go with them. Some other players, I think Bryce Thornton, the way he played to end the year was really fantastic, especially that game against Ole Miss where he gets to 2 game-sealing interceptions. Jordan Castillo going to year 3. It's just a lot of up and down. We'll see what he does this year. And J. Michael Sturdivant, probably should have put him on the list, but I feel like Dallas Wilson, bit more talking point, little bit, not really more proven, but what he did in the spring game, I feel like Dallas Wilson really does deserve to be on this list. And Miles Graham, another honorable mention. I just haven't seen enough of him, but I think he will have a really good year here. Maybe one of the best linebackers we've seen at Florida in a long time. Speaking of linebackers, though, at number 9, I have Grayson Pup Howard. Transfers over from South Carolina, was someone Billy really liked coming out of high school, was from Jacksonville, goes to South Carolina. We get to enter the portal, and he starts here in year 2, started at South Carolina some games in year 1, but comes here full-time starter. And I thought he was our best linebacker until the point where he got hurt. When he got hurt, I thought Shamar James really stepped up. I thought Shamar played good when Pup Howard was playing, but when Pup really got hurt, Shamar took control. But I do really like Pup Howard, and I think he is going to be that leader of the linebacker room going into his junior season here, his second year, though, at UF. And I think he's poised to have a really good season with also having a really good defense around him. He's going to have a great D-line, Miles Graham, Jaden Robinson, Aaron Childs. All these guys around him are fantastic. So I think that's going to really help Pup Howard, maybe grow as a leader and excel. At number 8 here, another Wilson, also in the wide receiver room. I have Trey Wilson. True freshman year, he goes for over 800 total yards. Was really an explosive player. not necessarily that true wide receiver one when you think of a wide receiver. Last year, spends most of the season injured, has some good moments. The game against Samford, he takes that 80-yard touch pass to the crib. And the Kentucky game, he has a nice deep play that ends up leading a touchdown in a game we end up dominating Kentucky in. I'm sorry. But some new photos of Trey Wilson released. He was looking pretty jacked. We know his speed and his lucidness and just acceleration and all that fun stuff. I think where we see the step up, though, is from his route running and being an actual true wide receiver one. It's something we haven't seen yet, but I think we're going to see a good bit more of it, and it could really help Dallas DJ Lagway, in developing as a QB, because he has someone he can trust who he can just get the ball to and let them make a play, but he also has someone that he can trust to get open down the field. So that's why I put Trey Wilson at number 8. At number 7 here, bit of a projection, not even a projection, he's a 3-year starter here, Austin Barber. Started at right tackle 2 years ago, was fantastic, one of the best O-line years we've had from someone not named Osiris Torrance, although Barber lined next to him. But Austin Barber at right tackle was fantastic. Now, the past couple of years, we've seen him moved over to left tackle. He's dealt with some injuries, some struggle, but we see mock drafts having him go as high as first round, his consensus mock draft being early to mid-second round. So I think Austin Barber is a year where he's healthy and it's going to have some other great offensive linemen around him. It's going to help him develop even more, and hopefully he can take that next step at left tackle and maybe boost himself to being a first-round draft pick. I know it's a long shot, but I think you look at the experience, production he's had, I think Austin Barber really does deserve to be on this list. At number 6, this is a tough one because it's someone who every offseason we hear a lot about this guy, but we get to the regular season and he plays really well, but he just gets hurt. He gets hurt. And I'm talking about Devin Moore. He's going into this is his 4th year here now at UF. Has he even played 12 total games? I think so, but it's not like he's had some phenomenal full breakout season. Well, I think this is the year we see it from Devin Moore, where I think he's going to stay healthy. Injuries, it can be something that you work on, but sometimes it's just luck. 4 times the charm. Usually say about 3rd time, but I'm going to give it to him this time. But I do think we finally see Devin Moore have a fully healthy season. He's physical, he's fast, he can tackle, he has all the things you want in a true corner, has good size and speed. If he can just stay healthy, I think we really have a good chance that Devin Moore can be a really good corner for us and assure us in a DB room, especially corner room, that a lot of Gator fans do worry about at this point. As we get here into the top 5, I feel like there's 4 names that people really are sure are on this list, and those will be the top 4. Number 5, I did cheat a little bit because I think it's going to be 2 guys who are going to split snaps, but both play at a really high level. Of course, I'm talking about the running back room with Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson. Last year, both of them get an increased amount of playing time with Montreal Johnson's injury. They both go for over 600 yards, averaging over 5 yards a carry. I believe Jacoby went for 5.5 yards a carry. I think these are 2 really good running backs. I honestly don't know who is better. Now, Jaden Ball, I think, is a bit more explosive, but I think Jacoby Jackson can be just as. Jaden Ball was just a true freshman. He had that 5-touchdown game in his first career start against Kentucky, which really put him on the map. But I think Jacoby Jackson had a bit more consistent of a season. They both went for over 100 yards against Texas. I know that game was a blowout, and we don't really want to talk about it, but they had really good games there. Saw it against Ole Miss. We saw it against FSU. We saw it against LSU. These are both just 2 really good running backs who are going to thrive in a Billy Napier system that allows for running backs to have really good years, but also be behind a really elite offensive line. It's cheating a little bit having both here, but man, I'm really high in both of them. I think both can be NFL running backs. I think both can be individually 1,000-yard rushers. Now, it's going to be tough for your splitting carries, and you look at the rest of the running back room. You also have Trayon Webb. You have KD Daniels. You have the freshman Duke Clark and Byron Lewis. Byron Lewis, who will be getting on campus, I think, this week, he tweeted. And there's also Chad Jasper's, another freshman. But I do think those 2 running backs are going to be really good for us this year, and I'm so excited to see how they play. At number 4, it was tough to rank them. I knew who my number one was going to be, but 2 for 4, you have a defensive lineman, you have an offensive lineman, you have your quarterback and DJ Lagway. I decided to go Tyreek Sapp. He's elite. He's a projected first-round pick as of today. Composite consensus mock drafts having at number 28 overall. He could be one of the best edge rushers. I believe he has the highest edge rushing grade of returning players in college football, according to PFF. He had 7 sacks last year. I'm really excited to see if we can get into that double-digit range. Haven't had a double-digit sack leader since... I honestly don't even know who our last double-digit sack leader was. Brenton Cox, did he have it? I mean, I know Jonathan Grenard, but outside of that, maybe Brenton Cox did. I don't think Princely did. So it would be really nice for our number one edge, who could be a first-round pick, to go and have a really explosive year, because we saw how much of an impact Jonathan Grenard made on that 2019 defense. We lose him. Yeah, we also lost a couple of other guys like CJ Henderson. But after Grenard left, that defense collapsed. We saw at the end of this past year, though, where you have that pass rush, especially from Sapp and a guy who'll be mentioned on later. It started to step up, and we held really good opponents to less than 20 points. LSU 16, Ole Miss 17, FSU 11, Tulane 8. The D-line really was a driving cause of that defensive success, and I think Sapp may be the locker room leader, too. At number 3, some people that have this guy at number 1, I'm going DJ Lagway. This isn't a negative on DJ Lagway having at number 3, because you have 2 players above him who are elite players, maybe even proven elite players. I think the thing that's holding Lagway back a little bit is he only had a 12-9, I believe it was, touchdown to interception ratio, which isn't the best. Now, I know Lagway's stats aren't why people are super high on him, including myself. Some think in 2 years he could be the first overall draft pick, and he's a top 5, top 10 in Heisman odds. But, he still was young last year, but you do need to see him take that step, which isn't a guarantee. Now, even without that step, he was able to help lead us to wins against Ole Miss, LSU. I just named the teams a little bit ago. But we need to see a little bit more consistency from him and be able to check down and make those intermediate passes a bit more. Because Lagway would have games where we go for 250 yards, but it was on like 7 completed passes, which is insane, but isn't something that you can replicate. You're not going to be able to beat Georgia by going 7 of 14 for 250. I mean, you could. He almost did it this past year, I guess. But realistically, that's something that you're not going to be able to keep doing over and over again. So I really hope we get DJ Lagway to become more of an overall QB. I think he's going to get healthy too, which is going to open up his legs a bit. And he's going to be one of the best QBs in the nation. There's just 2 players above him who are proven elite players. Now, 2 and 1 was tough to do. Offensive lineman, defensive lineman, I'm pretty sure you know who it is. One's a proven first-team All-American. He got his brick here in Jake Slaughter. One is a defensive lineman that's being talked about as a potential top 10 pick in the NFL draft. I decided to go number 2. I went with my heart. Jake Slaughter. Now, Jake Slaughter went to school 15 minutes away from me. So he's someone that's local to me. Sorry. No, from Ocala. So I could have easily put him at number 1. But I think there's a limit with how good a center is. I mean, this isn't me trying to badmouth the position, because any position in football is really tough, even kicker, long snapper, punter. But I kind of feel like I just threw shade at those guys unnecessarily. But Jake Slaughter, the center, if he was a left tackle, then I probably have Jake Slaughter number 1 on this list. It's just something that you don't really see centers be the number 1 player on a team. And if Jake Slaughter is their number 1 player, he's a really good center. But it may be something that could be seen as a weakness. And you rarely see centers go in the first round of NFL drafts for a reason. I think the last one to go in the first round was Creed Humphrey 2 or 3 years ago from Oklahoma. And he was an elite center like Jake Slaughter is. But they really have such a high, and I can't really put a center at number 1. That's my bias towards the position, I guess. But at number 1, I'm going defensive tackle Caleb Banks. Man, Caleb Banks put on a show to end the season. That LSU game, he just took over. He was the best player on the field every snap he was on the field. He was eating up that LSU offensive line. They were lining him up on the edge going against Will Campbell, who was just a top 4 draft pick in the NFL draft, and he was putting work in. He's someone that has a 6'6" frame, 325 pounds, if I'm not mistaken there. He has that elite size while also having that twitch and did I say wait, whoops. Oh, where is he at? Right here. Roster. Caleb Banks, what is he? D-line. Yeah, 6'5" and 3/4 and 3/4 and 330. So he's that elite level size, but he also just has the movements of someone who could be coming off the edge, as we saw. He was getting played in the edge position, so he's someone that we know can get a pass rush, really good run stuffer. I know draft experts, shout Hail Mary Sports, someone I follow a lot, and I know I talked to, he fleeced me for some draft picks in a trade, but has him as a top 10 player. He's a top 5 player, someone that has the ceiling higher than any player we've probably seen. I mean, Anthony Richardson, non-QB, the highest non-QB ceiling of a player we've seen since Kyle Pitts, I guess, which was 5 years ago now. I mean, how wild is that? That Kyle Pitts was a Gator 5 years ago. I mean, time really just flies. But I'm excited to see how this defensive line and how Caleb Banks puts a full year of tape out there. I believe he had 5 sacks this year. I don't expect him to get the 10 because it's pretty tough for a defensive tackle. I think that's more of a Tyreek Sapp or maybe someone who else is an honorable mention, a George Gums, who also had 5 sacks this past season. So I'm really excited to see how they perform this year. Oh, sorry. All right. I like to let you guys know you can become a member of the Florida at the Voice of College Football. Only $2.99 a month. You will get exclusive content with myself and Tyler Natuno when he returns. We will be doing film breakdowns of specific recruits, maybe some players coming onto the team. I just mentioned how Byron Lewis is coming is making it to campus this week. So I'm excited to maybe view some of his because we didn't see him in the spring game. We saw Waltez Clark. We talked about Dallas Wilson, and we saw some of those other big-time players that were recruits. Nashawn Montgomery, Vernell Brown had really good spring games. But a player like Byron Lewis, we didn't get to see him because he's a summer enrollee. So I'm excited to see how these guys looked in high school, maybe compare with the season. I don't expect Louis to have a big-time impact, but, you might get a couple snaps in against some of our lower-level opponents to start the year. Maybe against Long Island. Oops, sorry. Oh, sorry, 1 second, guys. Okay. But yeah, we didn't see we could see him get some early snaps, and maybe we'll see a huge jump as we have from a bunch of Jabbar Jaluk's recruits like ETN. He's the guy who coached at Montreal, Jaden Ball, and Jacoby Jackson. You don't have to. Something that you can do. But if you don't want to, please do like the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends. Check out all the other Voice of College Football networks. And we will be right back after this break.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
Welcome back. Great words from Mark Rogers there. Did a great job on that ad. Check out the Amazon link. It really does help support all of us here at the Voice of College Football Networks. We should be getting our special guest here in just a few minutes. In the meantime, don't know if you guys saw, they elected an American Pope. Not really trying to talk politics or religion or anything like that on here, but Villanova grad, Big East, little bit of college basketball there. I think that's something cool. Oh, there we go. And here we go. I now can move on from that random talk. We have Tucker Harlan here. Oh, there we go. This one. There we go. Welcome on, Tucker. It's from the Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. If you want to introduce yourself, go ahead.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm Tucker Harlan, as Tyler mentioned. I am the host of the Tennessee show, Tennessee Volunteers Live, here on the Voice of College Football Network. We have our show every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if you guys are into Tennessee football, but I know y'all are Florida fans, so you're probably not a big fan of it. But anyway, if you want to check it out, it's there. We'll again have our show on Monday night, and yeah, just excited to be on here and talk a little football with you guys. Just, talking things from a Tennessee perspective on a Florida show. This should be fun.
Yeah, I think this will be pretty fun. I was watching one of your videos where you were ranking your top 5 games you've attended. Now, you had 2 Florida games in there at number 3 and 2. The 2016 game where Tennessee has a miraculous comeback when they were down 21-3, end up winning that game by 10 points somehow. I mean, that was a game that really hit to me because, I didn't get to see us win championships, but we were still beating up on teams like Tennessee, Kentucky, teams that were down when we were still okay to good. Like, we weren't great, but that was the first time I had seen us lose to Tennessee. I think it was an 11-game win streak at that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was up there around 11 or 12, I believe.
And to see us have such a great lead, and it's like, okay, well, this is over. We beat them 11, 12 straight times. No chance Tennessee wins this. It was a sad thing to see. It's kind of similar to what happened with Kentucky 2 years later in 2018. That one hit even harder. I mean, I've only cried for one college football game, and it was that 2018 game against Kentucky. It was just a shock to the system, Do you have a game that really like shocked you?
In what way? Positive or negative?
It could be either way.
Well, I would say that the one that really sticks out to me has got to be the 2022 Tennessee-Alabama game. That was because the Florida game was a streak breaker, like you mentioned, in 2016, and to a lesser degree in 2022. But I do think that one holds a little bit more of a special place in my heart, just because I hadn't seen it in, I believe, 16 years. Was the last time that I'd been to an Alabama game, seen Tennessee beat Alabama. So that one definitely sticks out to me. And obviously I mentioned the Florida games in there because I'll be honest, Tennessee has been burdened by Florida for many years. And this is not just a recent thing. This has been going on since the 1990s. But the thing in my life that, makes it a little bit different from, say, a losing streak to Alabama or Georgia is with the exception of the Spurrier and Urban Meyer years, Florida has not had great teams and has still found ways to beat Tennessee. I was at the 10-9 game in 2014. That was one of the worst football games I've ever seen in person. Butch Jones and Will Muschamp have both just created some monstrosities that I've seen in person, because I was also at the, I believe, 2017 Tennessee and South Carolina game. That was 15-9. So there is a lot of nonsense that just defies logic in that series, mainly going for Florida. And there were a couple more in the swamp too in the following years, just in really both the games where McElwain was the coach in the swamp, that were just brutal ways for Tennessee to go down. Just miracles for Florida, to say the least.
Yeah, that 2017 game, the Hail Mary from Felipe Franks to Tyree Cleveland, also known as the heave to Cleve. And in 2015, you give up the 4th and 13 miracle touchdown. I mean, and you come so close on a 55-yard field goal. I just rewatched that, and that field goal was so close to going in. I mean, a little bit of wind, and that's a Tennessee win. That ends the streak there at 10 or 11 or whatever it was then. So I can feel how devastating it would be. But I think we need to talk about how the Florida-Tennessee game will go this year. Later in November, it feels weird that the game's in November. This game has been in September for since I've been a Gator fan. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't know how much it will affect it because these teams are going to have to play some brutal teams like you guys play Alabama. I mean, we have the second toughest strength of schedule according to most sources. What is yours, guys, according to most?
Yeah, I've not looked too deeply into it, but it's interesting because people say Tennessee will take a step back this year with Nico being gone. I don't necessarily think that's the reason why. I think Tennessee was going to take a step back anyway, just because Dylan Sampson is gone, and he was the heart and soul of that offense. But I do think they are playing with a little less pressure. But I just look at the schedule this year, and I just see a lot of assumptions on there that some of these teams are going to be good. And this is a league-wide thing too, right? Like, I'm not at all saying Tennessee will beat Georgia because that is the third week of the season. I'm also not bought in on Gunnar Stockton either. I don't think he is any kind of special quarterback for Georgia, so that could make things interesting at the very least. And then Mississippi State, I don't think should be good enough that early in the season for Tennessee to lose to it.
No.
Kentucky, Tennessee fans do not fear Kentucky in football ever.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
I think you guys had some interesting games though.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Over the last 40 years, Tennessee has won all but 3 games against Kentucky. Lost in 2011 up there, lost in 2017 up there, and lost at home in 2020. And the common denominator is that within a year of all of those games happening, Tennessee has fired a coach. So it has taken some incredibly bad Tennessee teams to lose to Kentucky. So, again, not fearful of them whatsoever. You look elsewhere, I think Oklahoma could be a little bit of a surprise this season.
Yeah.
And then Arkansas is another one that tripped up Tennessee last year, but they should be motivated for it. I believe that's a game Tennessee should come out ready for. So I think 8 wins is definitely possible. Anything more than that would be something that would get this fan base over the moon. Now, back to the Florida game, I would say just from a 30,000-foot view that appears to be the toughest game on the schedule to this point. At the same time, moving it back in the season is something that, I don't know, could play a factor in maybe Tennessee having a bit of a better showing in the Swamp, just because I feel like over the years watching this game, Tennessee is trying to figure itself out. And a lot of times they've been able to piece together 7, 8, 9 win seasons afterward. Florida, I don't know what you'd call it. They look figured out, and then they come unglued 2 weeks later. And that's what's happened in a lot of those seasons. Like, I just think back to the seasons that Florida has had losing records here in the last 15 years or so. Tennessee lost all 3 of those games in the Swamp.
Yeah.
It's happened.
I mean, 2023, you guys come into the Swamp. That's the famous Joe Milton. I was also there. That was a fun game for us, at least. You have your QB, Joe Milton, saying before the game that he doesn't lose to Florida. Guess what happens? You guys lose to Florida. And then 2021 as well. That was Emory Jones. People thought Florida was a top 10 team because this was right after we played Alabama to a 2-point conversion. We lost to them by 2 points. Again, Bama went up like 21-3. Florida comes back and is down 31-29 and has to go for a 2. We just barely missed that. And then we go play Tennessee, and we beat you guys like
38-14.
38-14.
Yeah.
I was also at that game, but people thought Florida was a top 10 team, and if they could beat Georgia, could be a playoff team. But then the next week, common denominators between both of those games, 2021, Florida goes to Kentucky and loses a heartbreaker. I mean, that was just a Dan Mullen masterclass, really. And then 2023, I think it was 2 weeks later, we go to Kentucky. Ray Davis goes for 300 yards on us. And I mean, then Florida, you mentioned it, went on to go 5-7 in both of those years.
Yeah. So, and to be clear, the 2021 game, I did not have an expectation for Tennessee to win it just because that was Josh Heupel's first year. Just trying to figure out what this guy is all about. Although the next week they went up to Mizzou and dropped 62 on them, just lit them on fire up in Columbia, and it was like, okay, this team's got something special brewing on offense. Now, 2023, I just remember the moment that Trevor Etienne ran for that long touchdown. I was like, here we go again. We've seen this movie before. That was the one game looking back on that season that Tennessee probably should have found a way to win and not make it as disappointing of a season. I get it. The second quarter was so bad for Tennessee that there was just no way to get back into it. And then you mentioned the Joe Milton in Florida thing. It's just this weird rule of nature where Tennessee, for the most part, does win in the state of Florida, just not in Gainesville. They win bowl games in Florida all the time. And Steve Spurrier very unfortunately said it back in the day, as every Florida fan knows. But yeah, that one did hurt because outside of that, the Bama loss was unfortunate. Tennessee was up 20-7 at half that season and lost 34-20 in Tuscaloosa. Of course, Bama goes on and plays in the SEC championship. Mizzou beat Tennessee up there in Como. Mizzou had a terrific season that year. And then, of course, Georgia beat Tennessee 38-10 in Neyland, and they went to an SEC championship. So Tennessee not had very good luck in the swamp, really, in much of my lifetime. The only time they have won down there was in, 2003. And really, outside of this year, I have not seen Tennessee beat a Florida team without some kind of exceptional quarterback play. Because Nico was anything but exceptional in that game this year. Usually it takes an A++ game for Tennessee to beat Florida. Tennessee might have played a C game this year and beaten Florida.
And usually how those games go, when Florida, when the home team finds a way to win like Florida has, it's usually Florida or Tennessee making those grave, unlucky mistakes or whatever. But this past year, Graham Mertz has a fumble on the 1 yard line. Remember, we're up 3-0. Yep. That ends up leading to no points there. At the end of the half, we get an illegal formation on the field goal attempt. That's the difference between 3-0, 6-0 at half. There's just a bunch of unlucky. Tennessee was better on that play. Also, the fourth and one inside the goal line, or fourth and inside the 20, where DJ Lagway hands it to Troy Wilson on a fourth down and Tennessee stuffs it. Like, there's just a lot of small one-play moments that ends up helping Tennessee win that game. And, Tennessee won fair and square, but it felt like the reverse of what usually happens in that game. Yeah.
When Chim Dickey, shout out the Tennessee Titans. I am a Titans fan, so glad to see him in two-tone blue and not orange and blue anymore. But when he started fielding all those punts and bringing them back for pretty considerable gains, it's like, oh dear, this could get bad quickly for Tennessee. And here's another thing that's a little bit different than usual with that game is, like, usually Florida falls off after that game in recent years. They got better as the season went on. Maybe something is changing. Nature is healing or something to where Tennessee can beat Florida and Florida gets better as the year goes on, whereas Tennessee had been losing to Florida before and Florida had gotten considerably worse as the year went on. I don't know what's going on there.
Well, I think there's something else to mention that not many outside fans know. Florida obviously had the terrible loss week 1 to Miami. Then DJ Lagway starts the game against Samford and has a career, like the second most passing yards by a Gator QB in a game of all time. And then we have the embarrassing loss to Texas A&M, go to Mississippi State. And that bye week, the rumors of Billy Napier being fired, it was at its height. Like, after that Mississippi State game, we've won, which everyone won against Mississippi State, even Toledo. The rumors were still very, very much at large, but they decided to keep Napier or giving him the season or later on down the road. But during that bye week, they had an infamous practice around here. Apparently, they upped the physicality in practice. They changed a lot of small things that Billy hadn't done in the rest of his tenure. And then we play UCF, a game that ends up 24-13. Not many people watched it because it's a 2-2 Florida, a 3-1 UCF team that's not very inspiring. And it's like, no one's going to watch it. They see Florida wins 24-13. It's like, okay, one bad team beats another bad team. But Florida dominated that game. Florida was up 21-3 at halftime. And then we only had 3 drives in the second half because UCF, like, they also ran the clock out, but it was just running the clock out the entire second half. So we were up 20, I think it was 24 actually in the first half, 24-3 in the first half. And that game was already over. Like, that game was never in doubt or in question or whatever. So then we go to Tennessee. Graham Mertz had a good game against UCF. And then DJ Lagway getting some drives. Sorry for my dog in the background.
Oh, it's all good.
But Florida had a little bit of hype. The defense played really well against UCF. So really the bye week practice is really where things started to change, because we go to Tennessee. You guys are a top 10 team, 100,000 plus people there in Neyland. We go lose a close game, a game that Florida probably should have won, to be real here.
Yeah.
And then we go to Kentucky, dominate them. And then that Georgia game where DJ Lagway has us up 10-3 with the ball, gets hurt. And, then you know how the season ended for us. But really that bye week where that insignificant game against UCF happens, that's really where Florida took that big step.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to think about this from a Tennessee perspective because and something I want to note too, just because Tennessee, for whatever reason, the state of Tennessee, not the university, has a bit of a history of producing Florida football coaches, one of which is Billy Napier. He is from Cookeville, which is about halfway in between Knoxville and Nashville. How hot is his seat this year? Because it feels like there was a lot of buy-in last year, and that's good. And I'm not at all saying this is what's going to happen, but Jeremy Pruitt had a season at Tennessee where he started 1-4, went 7-1 to end it, and everybody's like, okay, he's saved himself the job. And then he just collapsed in 2020. Is there a fear at all with that, with Billy Napier?
There still is that fear. I think Billy Napier's seat is hot if he doesn't have a good season, but I think the difference is a lot of like national media is projecting Florida as like a top 12, some as a top 10. I saw 247, I think, CBS on 3. They have Florida in that top 15, top 13 range. So there's a lot of hype for Florida to be a good team this year. If Billy has a bad season, anything 7-5 or worse, he could be fired. Like if you look at a lot of coaches, if they have a 7-5 season, it's a bad year, but they probably aren't fired. I think if Billy has a bad 7-5 or worse season, I'm pretty confident to say he will be fired.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to ask too about is with your quarterback, DJ Lagway. I do think he's got a tremendous amount of upside. Is he getting too much attention? Because I've seen quarterbacks in the past, one of which was here pretty recently, who got a lot of attention in the offseason. It didn't really pan out. And Lagway had his moments last year. But I don't know if I saw him consistently against good teams outside of the 2 against LSU and Ole Miss.
I could see the consistency factor. I mean, the A&M game, he was pretty rough. Now, that's really his first action. He's going against Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart, who are top 50 draft picks. And it's his first real big test. But then I guess after that, the Tennessee game you mentioned, he throws a pick the first play after Graham Mertz gets injured. So, but then he comes back down, gives us the game-tying interception or touchdown that leads the game into overtime, the pass to Chimdike. And, we come out short in overtime. But then, Kentucky, I talked about a little bit earlier on the show where he has that inconsistencies and never really thought about it too much attention. I think the real hype around Florida with DJ Lagway is the fact that it's a weird thing to say. He's a gamer. He's a winner. Like, he has that strong arm. He has all the potential in the world. But you've probably seen it, articles, every game DJ Lagway has started and finished, Florida has won, including matchups. Ole Miss scouts were calling Ole Miss the most talented team in the SEC, and Lagway led the team and was able to win that game. LSU was a top 25 team when we played them. Lagway wasn't having crazy stats, wasn't consistently getting those mid to short range passes that really make small but huge differences. But we were still winning those games. And really, I think Florida fans right now, all that matters is winning those games because we haven't really had a good team since 2020. So, I mean, maybe Lagaway still is inconsistent next season or in 2025. But if he's still finding ways to win games, I think he gets all the hype that he deserves.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And you could say the same with Nico last year to a degree. But the problem that Nico had last season was just the fact that you look at the big games last year, including the 2 losses to Arkansas and Georgia, and then you got the wins over Florida and Alabama. Combined, he threw 1 touchdown pass in all of those games. So it's definitely not him that's winning the games for Tennessee last season. And just looking around this year, is there a team that you look at in the SEC, and I know Florida is matched up with some of them that are considered on the better end. Is there one that just really stands out to you this year as a clear-cut number 1?
Okay, just the best team in the SEC?
Yeah.
I'd say it's Texas, but I'm not fully sold on Arch. Like, I'm as sold as you can be for a guy that was a number 1 rated QB, has a lot of hype, but we haven't really seen him play. If Texas had like a true proven QB who's won games in the SEC, not including Mississippi State, I think Texas would be that clear 1. But I'm going to say Texas, I guess, but like I don't think there's a clear 1.
Yeah, and I see some people mentioning it in the comments. I think they're right, honestly. Texas does have to replace a lot. Do you really trust Arch in the swamp?
No. I mean, he gets to play at Ohio State week 1.
Yeah.
So he's going to be battle tested. I mean, it's just 1 game, and those are 2 great top 10, top 5 possible stadiums, depending on who you ask, in the country. But that's his first SEC game in the swamp. There might be a little bit of difference. I think a lot of Gator fans. Another thing that just happened: Florida baseball just took down number 1 Texas, and one of Texas' starting players, Jonah Williams, is a 5-star safety who Texas loses 2 elite safeties who could be getting starting time. I think there's going to be a lot of heat among the Florida crowd onto those Texas players, which Arch is going to get heat from everybody, obviously. But there's a little bit of different heat, I think, when it comes to SEC on SEC matchups.
Your commenters are saying that Tennessee can't beat Florida in the swamp. They're not wrong.
Do you want to tell the chat again, just real quick, who you are?
Yeah, so I work for the Voice of College Football Tennessee show. We do our show every Monday night, at 8 p.m. You can like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you've got friends that are Tennessee fans. Or if you just want to hate watch, you can do that too. I fully acknowledge that Tennessee does not do well in the swamp. No. That is a reality. And maybe the game being later, that changes things. We mentioned it earlier. The last time Tennessee played late in the season in the swamp was actually because of a reschedule because of 9/11. So they had to play game in December. And Casey Clausen got the win. He actually won a couple games in the swamp. Not to say that will happen this year.
That's the game, I believe, that kept Florida from winning a national championship in 2001, or kept us from playing for a national championship in 2001.
But
a lot of Gator fans.
Yeah, your viewers don't have to worry, though, because Tennessee also blew it against LSU in the SEC championship that year. Mm-hmm. So they got it one way or another.
Something I want to rekindle. You said earlier you're looking at Tennessee's schedule. You said at Florida might be their toughest game?
Potentially.
Potentially.
And that just depends on how the season goes, right? A lot of season between now and then. Lots can happen. We'll see what happens with DJ Lagway. We will see if we'll see who Tennessee's quarterback is by then. It's a 3-man race right now. Not to say that there is not talent in that room because Joey Aguilar is a proven starter, at least at the D1 level. Merklinger, high-end 4-star, played a lot of lacrosse in high school. And, he was the guy that we were excited to get. And then George McIntyre was one that Tennessee fans were super excited about. So there is talent there. But I just look at the schedule this year. And I mentioned Georgia earlier as a home game that it could be difficult. In fact, it will be difficult because Kirby Smart, his nightmare fuel is Jamal Lewis running through him in the 1990s. Tennessee just ran all over him that year, or just in all of those years. He's always motivated for Tennessee because he does not want his players to suffer the same fate as he did when he was a little safety out there for the Bulldogs. But that said, and I know it's not been close in Neyland really since Tennessee beat them back in 2015, but you got a new quarterback. It's his first true road game with Georgia, and he came in the SEC championship, made one or two good throws. Really didn't do that much against Notre Dame, so I'm not ruling out the possibility of a close game. And then I mentioned a couple others. Oklahoma and Alabama are the two that I look at, along with Florida, that I think could be difficult because, at least on paper, I think Oklahoma has assembled a very nice team. I don't know if they will beat Tennessee and Neyland this year. It just depends. Again, a lot of season between now and then because that's either late October or early November. Looking at the rest of the schedule, Bama, again, quarterback situation. Is Ty Simpson that guy? We don't know yet. DJ Lagway is the most proven SEC quarterback that I think Tennessee will have to face this season. And I think that makes for a little bit of a challenge. But again, a lot of season between now and then. On paper, I would say it is probably the toughest game right now.
Yeah, I guess he probably is the most proven. Got Pavia. I'm not sure. I'm probably lower on Pavia than most people are.
I'm low on him too, just because last year, and I acknowledge that he was hurt, but he has this persona off the field and on the field too. His play doesn't always back it up. I don't think he's a quarterback that has the option system ingrained into his mind. I don't think he is as good of a quarterback as many people cut him out to be. And you look at their road schedule this year. They're at Texas. They're at Bama. They're at Tennessee. I'm missing one more that's pretty significant. South Carolina, who they have not beaten in 15 or 16 years. So, Tennessee fans should never be fearful of Vanderbilt.
At Virginia Tech, too.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech is not expected to do well this season, but I do think I do think that will at least be a difficult game for Vandy. And then just looking at the other bits and pieces of it, Taylon Green, don't know. He had a good game against Tennessee last year, but he was a turnover machine in the other games. So,
I guess
I think Lagway is probably the best one Tennessee is going against.
Maybe John Mateer, but he's not SEC proven.
Yep, I think he was nice at Washington State, but we'll just have to find out how he fits in. And Oklahoma too, they're going to have a completely new looking offense this year, and Lord knows they need it because you look at what they had last year, man. Jackson Arnold, I don't think he was great to begin with. You're throwing to your 6th and 7th best receivers for most of the season. That's not going to bode well for anybody. And trust me when I say this, because I root for a team that's been doing this for years, and the Tennessee Titans. That's not a recipe for success. So Oklahoma should be better off this year at that position than they were a season ago.
You can't forget Zach Calzada he did beat Alabama a couple years ago. So
this is one shining moment.
Yeah. All right. Let's get a little bit more onto the matchup this year. You're talking about you think Florida might be your toughest opponent. I guess you're not too confident in beating Florida this year. What is one matchup you think Tennessee has that allows them to beat Florida? What is one thing they're going to have to be really good at to beat Florida this year?
Well, offensively, it's difficult to say right now because I think of all the positions in the offense, and this is pending injuries. Tight end is probably what you know the most. And Miles Kitzelman, who is the starting tight end, who I think did a pretty good job for Tennessee last year, he tore his pectoral muscle in spring ball. So they have another guy in Ethan Davis who they were high on in the recruiting cycle. So you could plug him in and probably be just fine there, I would say. But you look at the other positions, quarterback is, again, very up in the air right now. We don't know who it's going to be just yet. It's a 3-man race, and all of them, I think, have a pretty nice shot at it, to be honest. You look at the running backs, and that's going to be the area that's changing the most for Tennessee this year, I think, because Dylan Sampson, in an age in which running backs are very devalued now, not just in college football, but in every level of football, what he did last season was nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah.
So what they have to replace him, it's, I think, going to be one of two guys. Deshaun Bishop, who Tennessee recruited out of high school, local kid, played at Carnes High School here in Knoxville. And he was like your third down back last year. He was, when he got in, he was nice, but he didn't get to play a ton just because of what Sampson did. Also missed 1 or 2 games due to injury. And then they also brought in a transfer out of Duke in Star Thomas, who had a pretty nice year there and was actually with Diego Pavia at New Mexico State the season prior. So he had a nice spring game from what I remember, but he was mainly getting reps with the twos. So I do wonder if Bishop will.
Really?
Yeah, I wonder if Bishop will get in over him. But again, I think Bishop had a pretty terrific season. And with running backs too, and you could say this about receivers as well. With running backs, you don't always have to have like a 5-star guy to come out there and just run all over teams. Dylan Sampson was maybe a 3-star coming out of high school, and Tennessee just found him in LSU's backyard, took him, and here he is playing for the Cleveland Browns now. So, but again, all that to say, running back is a position Tennessee is going to have to figure out this year. The offensive line, I would say it looks good on paper just because of some of the guys you got in the portal. David Sanders is a true freshman who will be starting at tackle this season. Highest rated recruit in Tennessee football history. So a lot of excitement around him. Yeah. I don't know if he's the highest, but he is, I believe, the highest since either Peyton or Bryce Brown. But his talent rating is super high. Lance Hurd, you're hoping he can make a bit of an advancement this year, just in terms of what he did up front or what he can do up front, because he was in some games a bit of a liability, although I think he was playing hurt for some of the time last year. The big question is going to be center, because you have your first center that is not named Cooper Mays in over 5 years, and that is going to be a big change for this offense. At guard, you portaled some guys that you really like, and Wendell Moy and Sam Pendleton. And then lastly at receiver.
Pendleton comes from Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame. And then looking at receiver, you've only got 3 guys that you're really planning to be in the mix right now. And that is Chris Brazzell, who I don't think really hit his full potential last season. Mike Matthews, who, again, Tennessee fans were super excited about getting out of high school. But again, was just buried last season, and it was just a hope that he could get in next season. And sure enough, I think some of the guys that hit the portal, mainly Squirrel White, were recruited over because they wanted to give Matthews a spot. And then Braylon Staley is the other guy in the mix, who is, I don't think he's the nephew. He's a cousin of South Carolina head coach Dawn Staley from South Carolina. So offensively, you've got a lot of new pieces, like I mentioned. Defensively, you're going to have some new pieces up front on the line. You got a position coach in Rodney Garner, who I think everybody trusts here at Tennessee. He's by far the best evaluator of talent on this team. Like, he's coached guys like Hall of Famer Richard Seymour. I believe Geno Atkins is another name he's mentioned in a press conference. He was at Auburn when they had Marlon Davidson, Derek Brown, all those. I know Tennessee just fine, even if they have a lot of talent. Linebacker, you got two juniors in Jeremiah T-Lander and Arion Carter this year, who Tennessee's hoping will take a step forward. So I think overall defensively is where Tennessee is going to have to try and stay competitive with Florida this year. And it's just a lot of season left. So these things can potentially shape up and really we could see differences as the year goes on. There's just a lot of new pieces right now, and I'm sure it's like this in many different places too, just because of the way the portal works now. Tennessee did have some losses in the portal, mainly in the defensive backfield, and the biggest one being Jacoby Thomas to Miami. That was a bit of a shock because he said he had always dreamed of playing at Tennessee because he's a Tullahoma native. But it's Tennessee did replenish there. They got one addition out of the portal in Colton Hood on the defensive backfield, and then defensive line they got another one as well in Josh Shell. But outside of that, no other defensive guys in the portal, and that includes both windows.
Yeah. So outside of maybe DJ Lagway, what player on Florida's roster scares you the most? Like, you look at him, he's like, okay, he's going to have a career game against Tennessee.
Is Jaden Ball still around?
Yeah, he was a true freshman last year.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. That guy, he's a big running back, a really big running back, right? He's not as tall as Derrick Henry, but from a weight perspective, he's like right up there with him. What is he, like 6'1", 245? Is that what he's listed at?
I know he's pretty big and pretty elusive for his size. I got it right here. Jaden Ball, he's 230. What is his height though? So he's 230 and ball. Find it right here. He's 6'1", 230. Yeah.
So a guy that I think could easily be a bruiser, although Tennessee did make a big hit on him in the game last year in overtime. But I saw him. He had that big run against LSU, right?
Yep.
Like just screaming with potential. So that's a guy that I think could give Tennessee a little bit of trouble if he can get going. Let's see. And then receiver, forgive me, I'm not super good with other teams' rosters until it's preseason magazine time. I'm a Phil Steele reader, so I've probably got about another month and a half to go until I get mine. Is Elijah Badger still around?
He signed with the Chiefs.
Yeah, okay, that's at least good for Tennessee. But there's been a couple guys that have really torched Tennessee in years past. Obviously, Antonio Callaway is one. Trey Burton on multiple occasions gave Tennessee nightmares. And then last year, Dickey was a problem. Trey Wilson, I think, got hurt against Tennessee in the Swamp. He was tearing Tennessee up early down there in 2023.
Our whole offense basically revolved around him. Like, besides a couple of runs from like ETN and Montrell Johnson, a lot of our offense was revolved around Trey Wilson on jet sweeps. He had a couple receptions down the field. But that 2023 game, first couple of drives, was a lot of Trey Wilson. He's been hurt 2023 and last year. He looks bigger than he has before coming into this year. I talked about him earlier. I had my top 10 Florida players go into the 2025 leaving spring in 2025, and I had him at number 8 for Florida.
Yeah, that's a guy that I think could cause many teams problems if he stays healthy.
Mm-hmm. I'll read you some of the lists of names I had in my top 10. Number 10, true freshman Dallas Wilson. A little bit of projecting, but I don't know if you saw the Florida spring game. I mean, this kid just has the size, speed. He really has it all, and I would be shocked if he doesn't have at least a decent year here as a freshman.
I don't buy stock in spring games.
That's very fair. That is
Yeah.
very fair. I have a linebacker, Putt Powered at 9. 7, I have our left tackle, Austin Barber. 6, I have our corner, Devin Moore. I have our entire running back room at number 5 because I think Ball will be splitting carries with Jacoby Jackson. Something interesting, that Tennessee game last year, Montreal Johnson was having a really good game against you guys, but Ball nor Jackson, either one of them could get it going against y'all. And Montreal got hurt early in that fourth or third quarter.
That's right, he did. I remember now.
And we couldn't really run the ball at all. It just was. Now you guys had a really good defensive line. Norman Lott and James Pierce, really good defensive players there. Went to NFL, but I think our line's a bit better. Another year under his books. Then number 4, our edge rusher Tyreek Sapp. I think he had a sack against you guys last year.
He is of no relation to Warren, is he?
I do not believe so. I would have heard it by now if he was. Number 3, I have DJ Lagway. Number 2, I have our All-American center, Jake Slaughter. Was AP All-American first team last year, returning our first returning All-American since was it? I can't remember who it was now. Percy Harvin, maybe?
Don't take good centers for granted. Tennessee had one of those for a while. And another reason why I think Tennessee struggled so much in the swamp 2 years ago, come to think of it, because he missed like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season with a hernia surgery. So they didn't have him. They were running Ollie Lane out there at center, which, bless his heart, not a hometown kid. He was from Northeast Tennessee, but just a bit of a liability up front. A guy that could play every position, but struggled against some of the best of the best.
I mean, yeah, we saw Desmond Watson trying to flatten Joe Milton, and where Joe Milton ends up throwing the pick to Devin Moore in that second quarter, which is really where Florida was already up 12-7. We go up 19 after that pick. Really where the game was. It was already in Florida's favor, but that interception really, all momentum was away from Tennessee. And then at number 1, I have our defensive tackle, Caleb Banks. I mean, you lose your starting center, Cooper Mays, who is really good. Oh, hold up. Rob is here saying Sapp is Warren Sapp's nephew. I know Sapp is from South Florida, so it wouldn't be a surprise. I'm just shocked that's the first time I've heard of this.
Yeah, I feel like I should have heard something by now about it. But because somebody asked about it, because he had a really nice game against UCF at like a multi-sack game against UCF.
Sapp?
Yeah.
Yeah, he I think he did. He ended up with 7 sacks this year. He had a good game against UCF, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, this is not true. Tyreek Sapp has clarified on his X profile bio there is no relation between them, which clears. Okay, so he's not related.
Interesting. But you don't see very many Sapps, let alone Sapps that play defensive line.
I know Warren Sapp went to Miami and Tyreek Sapp's from South Florida. So it would have made sense, but Sportskeeda is saying here that it's not true. Oh, wait. Does he say on his own Twitter? Hold up. Let me pull up Tyreek Sapp's Twitter. Okay, I don't know if he has. Maybe I don't know. I'll have to get that answer later on. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But he's currently a projected first-round pick, composite. I mean, our D-line is going to be really good this year, and you guys are placing a lot. I know some people are really high on Wendell Moe.
Wendell Moy, yeah.
Moy.
I don't think he gave up a sack against. Who was it? Or all year for Arizona. So they like him. Obviously, Pendleton is good as well. So you mentioned the line of scrimmage, and center again is an area that I think Tennessee is going to have to get better at. Like I'm just trying to think. I think William Satterwhite is the one that Tennessee is probably going to plug in at center. He was a 4-star kid. Want to say he's from somewhere in Ohio. So they're giving the reps to him because there were a couple guys in line for it. I know there was one, Vyson Lang, who was in line for it, but he transferred this offseason, I believe, to somewhere in the Sun Belt.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to ask you to close up here. Who is one Tennessee player that isn't really known that you expect to break out and to be maybe a household name after next season?
Well, it could be any of the 3 quarterbacks, so that's
let's ignore them because I feel like
all right.
With the whole situation, publicity, they're known at this point.
Who? Let's see. What player would that be? I haven't gone through any rankings like that this season. Because it could happen on the defensive line. That's very much a possibility. People already know about Jermod McCoy well enough, and Tennessee's just hoping he can recover from that ACL as quickly as possible. But to me, I would say it is either Mike Matthews or Braylon Staley. I'm leaning toward Mike Matthews, just because Tennessee has been at its best when it has a very dependable wide receiver. Jalen Hyatt won a Biletnikoff Award 2 years ago for a reason. And part of it, obviously, is that 6-catch, 207-yard, 5-touchdown game against Alabama. You just don't see that very often.
No.
And Tennessee, too, it's not talked about a ton. But when you look at the wide receivers it's produced over the year, it's sneaky good. It's not, LSU or Alabama good with these wide receivers, but you get guys in the NFL that just carve out nice roles, like Josh Palmer right now, who not many people thought a lot of when he was here at Tennessee, mainly because his first year was Butch Jones's last, and his senior year was Jeremy Pruitt's last. So that's a pretty rough period of Tennessee football, but he carved out a decent role with the Chargers. Now he's probably your first or second option with the Buffalo Bills. Juwan Jennings, another guy who may not be the most talented player in the world, but man, he fought hard for Tennessee when he was here, and again played in a pretty trashy era of Tennessee football.
Yep.
And he's carved out a nice role with the 49ers. Would say he's probably their number 2 option at the moment. Ricky Pearsall can obviously get in that conversation as well, but Tennessee can find good receivers and they can put them into the NFL. We've yet to see any from the Heupel era really stand out just yet. I know Cedric Tillman had like 1 week on the fantasy waiver wire where he was popping off.
Yeah.
But Hyatt just hadn't done much yet. But overall, I think it's got to be one of those 3 guys. If you were to give me a pick to click, so to speak.
You said Mike Matthews. Who was the running back, right? Who was it?
It's going to be either Deshaun Bishop or Star Thomas. I would say Bishop probably. And I think that would be great for a lot of reasons. One, you need a guy to fill that void. And it's not necessarily a misconception anymore just because people have figured it out, but Tennessee's offense is run-centric, not pass-centric at all. And Tennessee's produced 2 1,000-yard rushers in Heupel era the last 2 seasons. Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson both had very nice careers here at Tennessee putting together those seasons. And Bishop now has an opportunity to really step up and fill that void just because, last year he beat out some pretty good competition in Cam Seldon. Not sold on Peyton Lewis just yet. I mean, it was feast or famine for him last year. It's like this guy's getting either an 8 to 10 yard gain or he's got like a 4 or 5 yard loss. You just didn't know what you were going to get. But I think Bishop has to be that guy that breaks out for Tennessee this year at the running back spot if Star Thomas doesn't break out.
All right, George, I hope Tennessee has a good year as long as they don't beat us.
It's not probable that Tennessee wins in the Swamp. It never is.
Never is. Well, I'd like to thank you, Tucker, for joining the show. You can go check him out at Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. Go follow, even if it's just hate watching or, hey, George, you want to see Tennessee have a good year. Tucker can explain why even further. Who's your co-host on the show?
Jordan Binkley.
So go check out Tucker and Jordan. Monday nights at what time again?
8 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll probably be talking a little bit about trap games tomorrow, I would imagine. Not sure I would label Florida as a trap game, but maybe it is. If you expect to lose the game, I don't know if you can call it a trap.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Maybe it's Kentucky game with Zach Calzada having his one crazy game a year there. But thank you, Tucker. Thanks for joining. We hope to have you on another time, maybe later in November for when the Florida-Tennessee game does happen. But thanks. Go check them out.
Yeah, Tyler, thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right, chat. I'm going to tell you guys about our sponsor. Or not a sponsor, but go check out the Voice of College Football website. It's up, new, running. They have all the new shows listed on there. They have great articles here. Florida football raises a classic question heading into 2025. Articles about Florida, all the other teams here at the Voice of College Football website. Go check them out. Matt Zemek does great stuff there. Really state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line stuff there. High quality. I hope you guys do go and check it out. I'll leave the link for it here in the chat, actually. It's actually just the vocfb.com. I forgot to save it. There you go. If you need the link there, it's on the screen. Just go check it out. Great stuff. We continue to build. Check out the other channels. Just had their Tucker from Tennessee on. You see how great he was. Had really good insight for us that we didn't know. Now Tennessee offensive line might be sneaky good, and they lose Dylan Sampson. But hey, maybe there's an article about Tennessee on here about their offensive line. Oh, gotta change that up. That's better. Okay, let's do this one. Let me remove this. All right, there's no Tyler here. He's going to have Natuno. No Tyler Natuno. Obviously, I'm Tyler still. But no Tyler Natuno here. So I decided to do one of our weaker, smaller positions for this position breakdown here. We have the tight end position, which is something that I say before the age of Kyle Pitts. I mean, we've had good tight ends here. I mean, Jake McGee, Aaron, you know who, Trey Burton, Jordan Reed. Yeah, George, you're not able to click it. You can just type it in. I'm sorry. But we had some good tight ends here. But before Kyle Pitts, really, I wouldn't say people thought too much of the tight end position as a big game changer. And here so far, the Napier tenure, I think you have to say really that it hasn't been much of a game changer. I mean, you look at this tight end room, there's no one with significant production on this roster that you look at and be like, oh yeah, that's a guy right there that's guaranteed to be really good. There are some good candidates, though, to have breakout season. I think the first thing we should mention, the guy that I'm going to guarantee starts. Like, he started last year, got good playing time the year before that. Really good run blocker. I'm talking about Hayden Hansen, of course. I just realized he's listed at 6'7.75. He's nearly 6'8", 271, mammoth run blocker. I know he's also been working on his route running. I mean, when there's a chance he just puts more weight on, tries to go to offensive line at the next level, I don't know. We'll see how much work that route running really helps him with. But he is that tight end one going into the year. He's solid. I mean, I'll take a sip of water real quick, but Hayden Hansen's solid. Maybe that route running practice really does help him become a more viable target. I think we saw at the end of the year when Lagley got involved, the tight ends got a little bit more involved. That could also really help Hayden Hansen. I'm fine with Hansen, but the next name, maybe more of a pass catcher, Tony Livingston. I think the battle, because Hayden Hansen is going to be starting as that main run blocking. We do run two tight end sets a lot, so that second tight end is usually more of your pass catcher, and that will be either Tony Livingston or Amir Jackson. We haven't seen much of Amir Jackson, but he was a top 100 recruit coming out of high school. I think it was 99th or maybe 101st, actually. But he was in that top 100 area. Really good athlete, 6'4" and 3/4 quarters, 229 out of Georgia. Out of Porto, Georgia. We actually talked about that last week. Easy to get confused there. But if we're looking for an elite receiving pass catching tight end that we haven't had since Kyle Pitts, it would be Amir Jackson. It's just not something I'm banking on, nor am I predicting it, because we haven't really seen anything that would suggest it would happen. The other name, Tony Livingston. We really saw Tony Livingston come up onto the scenes at the end of the year, especially our bowl game against Tulane. Let me pull the stats for that game up, actually, because Livingston had a pretty good game. I'm pretty sure he had a touchdown. Let me get his stats up right here. Versus Tulane, Lagway went for over 300 yards. Tony Livingston had 4 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown. So he had a real solid game in that bowl game. If we could see that consistency for him over the course of the 2025 season, he'll be a viable starter. And it's going to be having a guy like Amir Jackson in that room could really help push Livingston or Amir Jackson to become great. I'm not predicting it, but, it's possible. The other name, tight end, I think that's worth mentioning is Caleb Rio, 6'5", and 3/4 quarters, 244 out of Golden, Colorado. He transferred from Air Force 2 years ago. He had to take a season to redshirt because of transfer rules. But I think he could be a really good run-blocking tight end. I just don't know if he has really any threat out of the pass-catching scene. And Hansen is going to be that surefire starter. Maybe Rios could give us some minutes, maybe in like the goal line, if you want to run 2 tight ends with 2 run-blocking tight ends. Because, you look at the game against Kentucky where Jaden Ball had 5 touchdowns. A lot of those touchdowns came from runs inside the 5. So, and he had one of those also against, I think, LSU or Ole Miss. He had another one of those, but maybe you bring in Rios for those packages. For goal line packages, short yardage plays. I just don't know how much of it you can really count on. A name we saw, I noticed a little bit in the spring game, Scott Isaacs. He's a walk-on from New Orleans. I don't expect us to see much of him, but he's another name in the tight end room, so I thought I'd mention him. The 2 freshmen, Micah Jones, he was a 3-star coming out of high school. He's from Madison, Mississippi, Madison Central, 6'4", 254. Very identical build to Scott Isaacs, who's 6'4", 252. And that's interesting right there. But I don't expect to see much of Micah Jones. More of a run-blocking tight end, but, he's a freshman. We'll see how much he develops. And the last tight end we brought on this roster, Cameron Kosman, out of Chesterfield. Where is that from, actually? So I thought it was Massachusetts, but maybe I'm wrong. Because Missouri. Okay, he's from Missouri. 6'5". Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one right there. 6'5" and 3/4 quarters. Or, no, that's Caleb Rio. Sorry. Cameron Kosman, 6'4" and 3/4 quarters, 236 out of Chesterfield, Missouri. Felt like a take a lot like Hayden Hansen. Now, Hayden Hansen ended up being a solid tight end. We'll see how he plays this year. We talked about it already. But I don't know how much we'll really get out of him in his total career. I'm not expecting really to see any of him, just like Micah Jones, some of the previous guys I mentioned this upcoming season. But maybe we'll see some development there. But that's really it with the tight end room. It's not a position to be very high on, but, maybe you have Livingston or more likely maybe Amir Jackson because of his his high school rating, be able to step up and become pretty good players for us. But that's really it. Natuno, he'll be here next week when we get deeper onto like the offensive lines and the wide receiver room, like the fun stuff, the big positions. But that's really it about the tight ends. All right, let me do this here real quick. Oh, I lost the heading. All right, check out the Voice of College Football on your favorite social media platforms. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. It's just at VOCFB, the Voice of College Football. They've recently released their top 10 ACC teams. Last week, we discussed their top 10 SEC teams. Only had Florida at 10. We discussed how we probably have Florida closer to 7, or for me, closer to that top 5. I'm looking at this right here. Clemson at 1. I feel like that's pretty unanimous right now. Maybe there's some people who really like Miami and their talent and Mario Cristobal. But I do think you have some weaknesses there on that offense, especially the receiver room. To go with Carson Beck recovering from his injury, I don't even think Carson Beck is throwing yet. Like, there was concern about DJ Lagway, but I'm pretty sure Beck isn't throwing yet either. I don't think he's going to be throwing until June, July. So I think that's something people should look out for. SMU returning a lot of their roster. I know they don't return Rashard Smith, who was a really good player for him last year. Helped me win my college fantasy last season. But no, I don't care for that. But Kevin Jennings, they return a lot of their D-line. I expect SMU pretty good. Louisville as well. Really, that top five there with Georgia Tech and Louisville and SMU. I wouldn't be shocked if any three of those teams were to sneak up. Georgia Tech returning Haynes King. They lose Singleton. I believe they returned their running back, Haynes, I think it is, who was pretty good. Brent Key has really showed up as a coach in big-time games. Really good record against top 10 teams. Obviously, there was the Miami game a couple of years ago where he kind of just, I don't like that, where he kind of just showed out. So I can't count out Georgia Tech. UNC with Bill Belichick. That's something very interesting to keep an eye on. I feel like I don't really like the roster. They did bring in DeAndre Robinson and Greg Smith there. Both I expect to start. So, hey, Billy Eval is going to Bill Belichick. How about that? Duke under Manny Diaz was fun last year. They bring in Darian Mensah. I like Mensah. He's a pretty good QB. If he played in that bowl game, that Florida Tulane game could have been pretty close. FSU at number 8. That's pretty interesting. That is quite a fall off for Florida State. I mean, you go 2 years ago going 13-0, 13-1, and then all the talk going into last season about Florida State has the best offensive line in the country, or defensive line, in the country. I mean, they're talking about all their guys being first-round picks. DJ Uiagalelei is going to come in. Norvell fixed Jordan Travis. Didn't really happen. But all this being said, go check out our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook. It's the VOCFB, Voice of College Football, and all those platforms. It's a pretty fun look and read. Go check it out there. It seems like it would be depressing to play football in the ACC. You know, maybe. I feel like playing Duke is pretty interesting because of their slow pace. Manny Diaz defenses have been pretty good. Was good there last year, so I'm going to trust he has a pretty decent roster. That's for players that don't want real competition. Bro, you guys need to, if you're not in the chat, if you're watching, if you're just listening, you're not really listening or watching, check out the chat. You got George here. George just put some entertaining stuff. And we had Tucker on here. George was going pretty crazy here in the chat. It was some funny stuff, some stuff we couldn't talk about. Basically, to sum it all up, George says Florida is the greatest team of all time. I know it would be depressing to be an ACC fan. It'd be depressing to be an FSU fan right now. That's really all I can say. But have we been much better besides this? We had an 8-5 year? I'm not going to talk smack about an 8-5 year. Hopefully we have a better year this year, though. Alrighty here. Let's end the show off. Let's talk about some baseball. I mean, it's not something we talk about a lot. Natuno is much more endeavored on the baseball team. I've been watching these games. I don't know if you guys watched this Texas series. Jonah Williams did that trash talking in game 1 when they were down 8-1. We win that game 8-2. Texas does take game 2. Florida gets screwed over by another rain delay where you have to have Liam Peterson end up stepping out because he goes 5 innings, which he could have gone 7 innings probably, but has to step out because of that rain delay. Texas, that next inning, 5 runs. They end up winning that game 5-2. We couldn't get offense going after the second inning. But game 3 comes along. It's just Florida rolling. Aiden King goes 7 innings without giving up a run. Bats were good enough to get 4 runs, win this game comfortably. This team is now possibly playing for a host. I mean, if they can have a host regional, it would be really phenomenal. Something that I don't think many of us could have expected. just a couple of weeks ago, a month ago. And now we go and beat number 1 Texas 2-1 in that series. You have another ranked team in Alabama coming home to Florida. If you win that series against Bama, have a decent SEC tournament showing, we could have a bye, first of all. We're a 10 seed currently in the SEC. If we win that series against Bama, we could be an 8 or a 7 seed in the SEC tournament, get that bye, have a good showing there. And we're talking about Florida being a host, which that 1-11 start, no one would have thought. I just think when you talk about this team, the pitching is just getting better and better and better. You bring Pierce Capola back. He starts game 1, and they're getting the guys. The batting rotation is still pretty unhealthy, but, we're getting there. Justin Noto had to miss game 2 because of a sickness, a late scratch, played today. But hey, this baseball team, I'm not going to talk about national championship or college world series. I'm talking about, I will. We've made Omaha the past 2 years. Last year, big underdog is a 3 seed. Really didn't have too much momentum either. It was really Ashton Wilson, Hayden Yost, and Chat Cagalone in the pitching, just playing phenomenal at the right time. This year, we have some momentum going into the tournament, which now we talked about a couple weeks ago as hopefully making it now we're like a lock for. There's no way we're missing the tournament. I feel like we're a 2 seed right now at worst, and we're competing for that 1 seed. Get this comment right here. If FSU wins in less games total this year, I win 500 cash. That's what I'm talking about, George. Good stuff for you. I believe it. I could see it happening. If we take a quick look at this FSU schedule, I'll read it out. Week 1, they host Alabama. FSU ain't being Bama. Then they get East Texas A&M. Okay, that's 1-1. Then they host the worst team in all of Division I last year, Kent State. They're 2-1, I guess, now. Then they go to Virginia. That's a pretty winnable game. Virginia loses Calandria. Not sure who they replace them with, but they probably should win that game. It should be 3-1. That's already more wins than they had all of last year. But then they host Miami. I don't think they beat Miami, so now we're at 3-2. They host Pitt. Pitt returns their QB, Eli Holstein. I'm going to say they lose that game in 3-3. Then they go to Stanford. I think they win that. That's 4-3. Then they host Wake Forest. I think they win that. That's 5-3. Hey, am I having FSU in a bowl? They go to Clemson. They're not winning that. That's 5-4. Home against Virginia Tech. I know Tucker, our guest earlier, said that he's not high, that not much momentum around Virginia Tech. Am I crazy, or do they still not have Kyron Jones? Oh, didn't he transfer? No. He's still at Virginia Tech. I love Kyron Jones. He's a fun player to watch. So I'm going to give Virginia Tech the benefit of the doubt until they lose Kyron Jones. At NC State. Carter Finley is a pretty tough place to play. What is that NC State roster looking like? Because I know they lose KC Concepcion to Texas A&M. They made the big hire of Lil Wade in basketball. Have they made moves in football? CJ Bailey's pretty promising. Not excited in that running back room. I'm not too excited. It's a pretty senior, that defense. Oh my God. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm sure 9 seniors on defense. That's a decent defense. And I gotta hope it's a decent defense. You gotta hope their guys have developed. I'm not too sure about that offense, but CJ Bailey should be pretty good. They got a senior transfer wide receiver, Wesley Grimes, and Noah Rogers. Isn't he from... Did he go to Ohio State? Wasn't he a pretty high recruit out of high school? Like a near 5-star, if I'm not mistaken. Noah Rogers was the 52nd ranked. Yeah. Hey, maybe. I'm going to say FSU wins that game to get to 6-5 when they lose to Florida. I got FSU at 6-6. If George loses that bet, he has to sing the Florida State fight song on the internet. That's pretty tough, George. That can be pretty tough for you, man. But we will end the show. Oh, wait. Nope. one last sponsorship thing. Catch Florida at the Voice of College Football live on your favorite audio platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music. I have the link for us on Spotify because I know most of the people I know use Spotify. I don't know about you guys on chat, but if you're just driving, if you're trying to go to sleep, you're not really watching it, just listening maybe helps you sleep. Check us out on Spotify. We appreciate all the support we get here on YouTube and on those other audio platforms. So thank you guys so much. But with that being said, I'm going to end the show there. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Tucker, for joining us on and talking Tennessee football. I'm hoping to have some other guests from FSU, LSU, maybe Georgia, maybe Miami later on. It's going to be a pretty fun offseason. No offseason here at the Voice of College Football. Trick you guys. But with that being said, I will see you guys next Sunday. And as always, go Gators.